Next up, we've got a very touching documentary about what it's like living in the world of dementia. From the family's perspective and their point of view, here is Dealing with Dementia.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little drink about an hour ago and it's gone right to my head. Wherever I may roam, on land or sea or foam, you can always hear me singing this song. Show me the way to go home.
Each person is unique and will experience dementia in their own way. Different types of dementia affect people differently. How others respond to the person and how supportive their surroundings are also greatly affect how someone will live with the disease. A person with dementia will have problems with their thinking or memory, and over time, they will deteriorate. They will suffer from day-to-day memory loss, concentration, language and orientation problems. My nan, Alice Edith Humphreys, developed the disease around 10 years ago, and this is how me and my family dealt with dementia.
What's your name?
Lorraine.
Sorry, are we talking gibberish to you? Did you understand that?
Very well, very well. Oh.
You're making me giggle, Mum.
I went to speak to Lorraine Gonzalez, my mum, to speak to her about what it was like having a mother-in-law with dementia and what it was like being her carer for many years. How long is it that you've been working with dementia?
I would say at least 10 years plus now.
And most of them years you've been caring for Alice and her husband, haven't you?
Yes, I was, Sid and Alice.
Okay, well could you tell me a little bit about what it's like working with dementia?
Working with dementia, I feel like you've got to have a lot of empathy. There's a lot of things that get repeated. You need to be very, very patient. And obviously when I worked with Alice, it wasn't just her dementia, she had a colostomy bag, which I used to change. And I also worked for an agency for 3 months, caring with elderly people. I just feel you need to care for them and understand them and be their friend.
So do you feel that sometimes you maybe will become emotionally attached with those people that you work with?
Yeah, you can do. To be honest with you, yeah, you can get emotionally detached, but at the end of the day it is a job, and as long as they're safe and they're looked after, cared for, that's the thing. But it's very, very difficult not to feel emotion, especially when, for instance, it was my mother-in-law and my father-in-law I cared for.
As you probably know, there's been a lot of controversy in the media lately about abuse in nursing homes. The offenders of such have been saying that they find it frustrating and angering working with dementia. Do you think this is a valid excuse for treating people this way?
No, not at all. No, there's no excuse. It's their job. There's no excuse. These people don't understand. If they've got dementia, they don't understand half the time what's going on, and there's no reason for them to be abused. I work with children at the moment, and it's like abusing an innocent child when they get to the stage where they've got Alzheimer's and they don't know.
They are essentially like children, aren't they?
Yeah, they are like children. I say I've changed nappies now for children, and I used to change nappies for my mother-in-law because she became incontinent. And it's like being a child, being looked after when you're younger, and then when you get older, having dementia and Alzheimer's, you're looked after again. It's going back to that baby stage, which is very sad because these people are very innocent and don't know, and they need to be cared for, not mistreated. It's very wrong.
Can you tell me of any first-hand experience you've had with dementia that's been very emotionally difficult for you?
Yes, obviously seeing so many years being married, my mother-in-law, obviously I saw her from when she was younger. Watching her deteriorate was really very emotional, and looking after her, caring for her, she was very sad, wanted to go home, didn't know where she was, very disillusioned, and then I had to leave her in a home. It was down to me, which was very, very sad because all she wanted to do was go home, and I had to walk away and leave her, and it was very sad and very emotional.
What were the sort of things that she used to say to you when you would leave?
If I was round, for instance, looking after her at her home, she would just say to me, can you take me home, please? My mum and my dad will be worried about me. I shouldn't be out this late. Have I got a coat? Could you take me home, please? And I used to say to her, well, you're home now. And all she wanted to do was go to her home and see her mum and dad because they would be worried. Just very sad, very sad. And I just used to chat, speak to her and chat away with her and reminisce. Now I'm getting a bit emotional myself here. Yeah, as I say, all Alice wanted was to be shown the way to go home. And that's all she wanted.
Do you remember your son, Mark?
Eh?
Your son, Mark.
My son.
Your son.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you remember him?
Oh.
Your little boy.
Oh, he was lovely
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
Oh, she come up to me.
Next, I interviewed Mark, my dad, to ask him what it was like having a mother with dementia. Tell me a little bit about your mum and what she was like as a mother growing up.
Yeah, she was really caring woman, good fun, never ever lost her temper. We was a family that sort of all sat around, we liked watching telly and watching quizzes on television and things like that, so she used to join in. It was a close little family, never really one for going out and doing things. She preferred to be indoors and staying indoors, and it was a typical East End sort of housewife, or I suppose a housewife of that era. My dad went to work, she was at home all day, would do the housework, so she had her routines that she stuck to. There wasn't really very much. Once or twice a year they would go out to dinner dances, but other than that really it was a couple of friends would come round, but we'd stick within the family. We'd go out at weekends, on a Sunday to see her sister, and vice versa. Her sister used to come and see us, so quite close knit. Yeah, she was a lovely lady, and never had a bad word about anyone, and was always smiling, always happy.
When did you start to notice the effects of dementia taking its toll on her?
I guess in her 60s, late 60s maybe, she started to repeat herself a lot. Mum and Dad, both of them actually would tell the same stories over and over again, reference to, say, Greg or Jill. It was always seemed to be the same story, and me and my wife would look at each other and think, are they kidding? But then it became more prevalent, and started to notice actually she was repeating herself more and more, and realistically she only had half a dozen different stories that she would associate with anything that you was talking about. And it was at that point you started to realise actually there was a problem. And then it was a gradual deterioration into no short-term memory at all, really. But she, under medication, she levelled out, and although she's now got no real recall, she's been the same for about 7 years, or 5-6 years, I guess. Have not got any worse, but certainly not got any better. But she doesn't have any recall of anyone. She knows that she knows people, but doesn't really know why or where from.
Do you find it difficult going to see her now, knowing that she doesn't recognise you anymore?
Yeah, of course it's always a little bit. In many respects, it's a funny thing with Alzheimer's that if you're going to have dementia, or if you're going to be in a home, then having dementia as she's got is probably one of the, it sounds a silly thing to say, one of the best things to have. Not knowing that she's there, she's happy in her own world, so I'm happy that she's happy. It's not very nice to know that she doesn't remember anyone, she doesn't remember my dad or anybody else really. She knows that she knows me, but doesn't know, why or what association. It is quite sad, it is quite difficult, but there is a little bit of comfort that if she had all her faculties, that if she was in a home, I know she would absolutely hate it, and she just wouldn't want to live. Whereas at the moment, she's actually got some quality of life, and even though she doesn't know anybody, she's oblivious to the fact of where she is, where she goes, and she's actually quite healthy.
It must be very difficult seeing her unable to tend to her personal needs now. Do you think she's well looked after in the nursing home?
Yeah, this particular case I do. The new government reforms on healthcare for the elderly is making it very difficult for people to run the nursing homes without stringent checks on their staff, and they seem to be running the care home properly. They ask me to sign off paperwork on a regular basis. She always seems clean and tidy, and I can turn up there randomly at any time. Of course, there's no real way of knowing. Short of putting a camera in the room and seeing whether she's being mistreated, there's no way of knowing. But the home is always well kept. It's got a new extension on it. It's got nice facilities, and the staff are always friendly and polite. So my feeling is that yes, she is looked after.
So Alzheimer's dementia disease, as you know, is quite commonly inherited. How do you feel about the chances of you developing it?
Well, it's strange you say that, actually, because I've spoken to the Alzheimer's Society, and they claim that it's not inherent. It's not something that you can actually pick up and is inherited. There is a a common sort of denominator in people that get it, but it's not necessarily something that's passed on from one to another, which is good news. If I get it, I get it. I mean, the reality is that most people don't get Alzheimer's until they're till sort of 60s or 70s, or late 60s, 70s. The kind of good news that keeping an eye out in the press is that they do seem to have found a cure of sorts that they reckon would be available within the next 10 years, which could be good news for someone like myself in case I did get it. I'm not worried that it is inherent. If I do get it, I get it. You can't worry about what life's going to throw at you. It will just be what it is. It's an awful thing to think that you could end up like that, but what can you do? You can just hope that there is a cure out there, and that with all the advances in science and technology that there is nowadays, that it won't be as big a problem as it is at the moment.
Okay, lastly, if you was to given the chance now to remind your mum of one thing from the past, what do you reckon that would be?
I think the one single thing I'd like her to remember was my dad, was her husband, Sid. I think having comfort and knowing that someone loved her so much that he would never let her go and never wanted to let her go, and he kept her out of that home for as long as possible. It's just a shame that she has no recall of him at all. The name doesn't ring a bell. There's nothing there. But yeah, I think if there was one thing, I think that just to think back and know that she spent a large part of her life, 40 odd years with him, knowing how much that she was loved by someone and how much someone cared for her.
I now took the opportunity to have my own say and speak about what it's like for me having a nan with dementia. I do remember quite a lot about her. Obviously from when I was little, before she forgot me. I still sit now watching the home videos of her talking to me when I was a little baby.
She's tired, darling. Are you tired? Are you tired?
Whatever the circumstance, I'll always have a connection with her. No matter what happens. I'm Alice Humphreys, she's Alice Humphreys. She's not aware of it, but that will always be a really special thing to me. It's funny, I go into the home now and I see her, and every time I go in there I'll say to her, you know my name, I'm Alice Humphreys, and she'll just look at me and she doesn't know. You know my name is Alice Humphreys?
Yeah.
What's your name?
I don't know, Mama. I don't know what it is.
Your name is
She
Alice
won't come
Humphreys.
sometime.
I worked in the home last year for about 4 months, and it was nice. It was a nice chance for me to bond with her, and I did. I bonded with her in a way that was quite extraordinary, actually. She didn't know who I was, per se, but every morning I'd walk in there and she'd absolutely light up my day. She'd look up and she'd see me, and she'd never, ever fail to just smile at me. And even if it's not true, I like to believe that she knows who I am. There's something inside her that is saying, you know who that is, that's your little granddaughter, that's your little Alice. And I would go up to her and I'd say to her, oh, I love you, and she'd say, oh, thank you, oh, you're lovely you are, and it would just be such a lovely, lovely thing, and she'd just make my day. I love you.
You love me?
I love you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
She's a strong old woman, my nan. She's been through so much, so many different types of illnesses. I mean, I remember being younger and she wasn't there on Christmas Day because she was in hospital with blood poisoning, and she had breast cancer, had to have one of her breasts removed. Just recently, at the age of 89, she broke her hip, and she's still going strong. She's in there, she's walking about. I tell you, I wouldn't want to get a backhander off her, I'm telling you now.
married?
Married to you.
Oh, yeah.
Was you? To who?
I don't know. I don't want him.
That's not nice.
Well, I don't want him phoning me out and saying, I'm not brother, I don't run up, and I'm not doing something.
I only have one nan, and I couldn't ask for a better nan than her. She might not know who I am, she might be in a home, but she's always there for me. I can go and see her, she'll always make me happy, she'll always make me smile. As a child, she always was there, everybody loved her, she was such a lovely woman, always laughing. She'd be there to attend my birthdays, mine and my sister's, and we'd always be there for hers as well, because she was our nan, and we loved her. Bye, Nan. Love you. Love you.
Love you.
I love you so much. I'll come and see you soon, yeah? I love you so much.
Yeah.
Don't forget me.
Oh, love, thank you. Thank you.
Dementia doesn't just affect one person, it affects their family and friends too. Those with dementia are still people. They still have stories, character, and are unique. You may be absent in their mind, but you will always be in their heart.